The miracle doctor won't be a kept man. My heart belongs ashore. Chapter 1081. Kiran York acted as if he hadn't heard Lady Meiji's words, showing no reaction. Macy Wendell remained equally calm, as if she had already come to terms with everything. Lady Meiji seemed provoked by their reactions and couldn't help but sneer. My husband died years ago, and I went through countless hardships, doing many unspeakable things to recover his body. As she spoke, Lady Meiji shed 2 tears. Although her form appeared somewhat ethereal, the tears seemed very real. I finally recovered his body, but I had become neither human nor ghost. At that point, I could either die or live on to seek revenge. Every time I woke from a nightmare, remembering how I was humiliated, my heart was filled with hatred, so I chose revenge. During my quest for vengeance, I killed those responsible, and in the end, I died too. In that moment, I realized that life should be lived for oneself. She continued, by a twist of fate, my soul remained on Saintess Mountain, and I have survived and cultivated here for 1,000 years. Her words deeply shocked Kiran, and even Macy's expression changed slightly. There is true love in this world, and I once truly loved. But in the end, it was worthless, and I was left with nothing but hatred, Lady Meiji continued, turning to Kiran. Aoki Cosner is a woman who shouldn't exist. Her very presence seems to be a reminder from the heavens that love still matters. Where is Aoki Cosner? Kiran asked urgently upon hearing her name. However, he could feel the complexity in Lady Meiji's heart. She used to have true love, but it turned into hatred in the end. In the end, there was nothing. Sensing his concern, Lady Meiji replied, Don't worry, she's alive and well. However, despite the mental training Macy has helped you with, you are still no match for me, she added, turning her gaze to Macy with a mocking smile. I think you understand this very well. Macy glanced at Kiran and then at Lady Meiji without speaking. You can't kill me because if I die, you won't gain the power of the dragon vein or the pagoda of nations. And with my current abilities, killing me isn't easy either, Kiran said calmly. Lady Meiji didn't argue, nodding with a smile. Since we're all clear-headed and understand the situation, how about we cooperate? Cooperate on what? Can the living and the dead cooperate? Kiran asked with a cold smile. Lady Meiji wasn't angered. Instead, she calmly said, We can cooperate to help you enhance your mental strength while you help me find a way to take on a physical form and be reborn. Fearing Macy might object, she quickly looked at Macy and added, If I have a physical form and Kiran's mental strength grows strong enough, I might not even be a match for him. I think that's feasible, Macy interjected before Kiran could respond. Kiran was slightly taken aback and turned to Macy. He didn't want to cooperate with Lady Meiji. Macy smiled and said, She can't harm you as long as you possess the power of the dragon vein and the pagoda of nations. You might as well train with her. The stronger your mental strength becomes, the less she can harm you. Kiran furrowed his brows, analyzing the situation, and then said, If Aoki Cosner remains safe, and the demon suppression stone is returned to Dragon's Land, I can agree to this. Lady Meiji was delighted. I can agree to those terms, but I have a condition. What condition? Kiran asked. I want you to stay on Saintess Mountain to train so I can utilize the natural advantages here, she said, her tone firm but with a hint of pleading. I can agree to that, Kiran replied, now clearer about the need to understand Lady Meiji's unique traits to better counter her interference. Great, we can cooperate then, Lady Meiji said, her face lighting up with excitement. Go ahead and fulfill the 2 tasks first. Once they are done, I'll stay here and train with you, Kiran agreed decisively. Okay, Lady Meiji responded, and then disappeared. Kiran turned to Macy, who remained silent but communicated with him telepathically via Sophia Carter's life essence. Macy, agree to Lady Meiji's terms, otherwise she'll be impossible to defend against. Know yourself and your enemy, and you'll be invincible in battle. Kiran, I had the same thought. To kill her, I need to understand her. Macy, her desire for the dragon vein's power surpasses her desire for her own life. Keep that in mind. Kiran, don't worry, I know how to handle this. I won't let her absorb the dragon vein's power or the pagoda of nations' power. Take care of yourself. If you return to Dragon's Land, please look after Sophia Carter. Her life essence has already merged with yours. Kiran, her life essence has merged with mine? Kiran was surprised by this revelation. Macy, when you lost your life essence, it was sustained by Sophia Carter's. I linked your life essences during our recent training, so now they are one. Kiran, I already have too many women around me. Macy, that's your problem. I'm just informing you of the current situation. Decide for yourself. Kiran wanted to say more, but Meiji had already stopped communicating and began walking down St. S Mountain. Watching her leave, Kiran felt a newfound respect for Meiji. Keep working hard, your burden is still heavy, and the path to the peak remains full of challenges. Meiji's final telepathic message filled Kiran with determination. An hour later, Lady Meiji returned with an unconscious Aoki Kozner and informed Kiran that the demon suppression stone was already on its way back to the Maui tribe. Kiran was overjoyed and was about to check on Aoki Kozner when Lady Meiji made a request. See Chapter 1082. Kiran York, my condition is that you make all these women leave St. S Mountain, leaving only you here to train with me. Lady Meiji suggested to Kiran. Kiran was taken aback, his face showing a thoughtful expression as he looked at the unconscious Aoki Kozner. Don't worry. Whether it's Aoki, Yvonne Quinn, or Jenny Leo, they will all leave safely, Lady Meiji said calmly as if she could read Kiran's thoughts. Can't they stay here and train together? Kiran tried to negotiate. Lady Meiji firmly shook her head. No, I want the training here to be quiet, with just the two of us. Kiran sneered inwardly. You're not even human, you're somewhere between human and ghost, or maybe just a ghost. However, he deliberately put on a thoughtful, reluctant expression. Seeing Kiran's expression, Lady Meiji continued, as long as you agree to train with me here, I can guarantee that your women will be safe. And how will you handle the matter of your life essence in Yvonne? Kiran asked, looking at Lady Meiji. Lady Meiji hadn't expected Kiran to remember the matter of her life essence, something she had been considering and focusing on. Without her life essence, she was like a person without a source of life, which was very dangerous. After a moment of contemplation, Lady Meiji said firmly, the life essence will remain in Yvonne. Kiran was slightly surprised. He had thought Lady Meiji would demand her life essence back, but was taken aback when she agreed to leave it in Yvonne. If that's the case, shouldn't Yvonne stay here? What if? No, she should leave, Lady Meiji insisted firmly. Kiran didn't understand Lady Meiji's plan, but remembering Macy Wendell's advice and his own decision, he thought facing Lady Meiji alone might be better. So he nodded in agreement. Now go say your goodbyes to these women and have them leave as soon as possible, Lady Meiji said before turning and disappearing. Kiran walked over to Aoki Kozner, gently holding her and unbuttoning her clothes to check the strange wound. The wound on her chest had healed completely without even a scar, and her fair skin was flawless and alluring. Kiran had no other thoughts, he just felt relieved. Aoki stirred, possibly feeling Kiran's embrace or the cool breeze on her exposed skin, and opened her eyes. Seeing Kiran looking at her chest, she panicked, thinking the wound was still there, her face flushing with embarrassment. It's healed, Kiran said with a smile. After a moment of surprise, Aoki joyfully wrapped her arms around Kiran, holding him tightly as if he were her closest and dearest, her greatest comfort. Feeling her anxiety and fear, Kiran gently patted her shoulder. Everything is fine now. I reached an agreement with Lady Meiji. How could you cooperate with her? She can't be trusted and... Aoki's words were cut off as Kiran gently placed a finger on her lips. Her eyes were filled with worry and concern, along with a hint of inexplicable tension. Kiran, however, remained calm and said, I'll wake Yvonne and Jenny soon, and you three will leave St. S Mountain and return to Dragon's Land. Wait for me there. You plan to stay here alone? Aoki's face showed even more anxiety and worry. Kiran smiled and nodded. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Before Aoki could say more, Kiran lifted her and carried her inside where Yvonne and Jenny were waking up. Seeing Kiran carrying Aoki in, the two women jumped up from the tatami with joy. How is Aoki's injury? Hearing their concern and feeling Kiran's warm embrace, Aoki blushed and said, It's healed, I'm fine. That's great, Jenny said, her face bright with relief. She then turned to Kiran and asked, Did you kill that old witch? Kiran, amused by Jenny's candidness, ruffled her hair gently. No, she's alive. We reached an agreement. What kind of agreement? Yvonne asked with concern. Jenny's large eyes blinked with curiosity as well. I'll stay here and train with her, while you three return to Dragon's Land and wait for me, Kiran explained. Training with that old witch? Are you sure she is not bewitching you? Jenny pouted, clearly jealous. Kiran chuckled at her adorable reaction. What are you thinking? That's impossible. Then let us stay here too. We can supervise and ensure nothing happens between you two, Jenny insisted. Kiran looked at Yvonne, feeling a bit helpless. Sensing his look, Yvonne knew he wanted her to persuade Jenny to leave. Holding Jenny gently, she said, You don't trust your man? That's a failure on your part. Sissy Vaughn, it's not that. It's just that old witch she might. Jenny stammered, feeling a mix of jealousy and worry. Yvonne comforted her. Don't worry. Consider this a test for Kiran. If he fails, we can ditch him. She playfully glared at Kiran and said, Behave yourself, or we'll come after you. Kiran felt warmth in his heart and was grateful for Yvonne's support. If he could avoid training with Lady Meiji, he would, but he knew the battle with her would be perilous. Either he would lose the power of the dragon vein and the pagoda of nations, or he would successfully cultivate his mental strength. Hurry and leave. The sooner you go, the sooner I can finish training and come back to you, Kiran urged. Jenny wanted to protest, but Yvonne was already leading her away. And so, the three women left, and Kiran stayed behind. About an hour later, Lady Meiji returned. Seeing her, Kiran's eyes showed a hint of tension. Chapter 1083. Lady Meiji had always been stunningly beautiful, with a beauty that could captivate nations and cities, like a celestial maiden. Her body, existing between reality and illusion, gave her an ethereal and dreamlike quality, enhancing her enchanting allure. At this moment, Lady Meiji wore a thin, gauzy dress, barely covering her body, yet accentuating her delicate curves and graceful figure, making her even more breathtakingly beautiful. Such beauty was enough to tempt anyone. Such beauty was enough to evoke deep emotions. Such beauty was enough to captivate hearts. When Kiran York saw her, he couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement, not because he was lustful, but due to the naturally alluring aura Lady Meiji exuded, stirring his emotions. However, Kiran quickly took a deep breath to calm his inner turmoil and focused on Lady Meiji. Lady Meiji sensed Kiran's brief emotional fluctuation, but seeing him quickly regain composure, she couldn't help but feel a bit disappointed. It seems my charm isn't enough to turn you into a wild beast, she remarked casually. Her body then gracefully leaped into the air, seemingly floating, and landed lightly on the tatami mat. She lay on her side, supporting her head with her right hand, looking even more seductive and filled with endless tenderness. At this moment, Lady Meiji seemed like a gentle, silent water flow, capable of melting the hardest hearts, making even the most unyielding people fall for her. Kiran's heart trembled slightly, and he started to feel stirred, but he quickly thought of his mental strength training, wondering if this was a test. He immediately focused his mind, resisting the temptation. Lady Meiji, seemingly teasing him on purpose, moved her body slightly, releasing another wave of enchanting aura. The mature, seductive aura felt like a gentle spring breeze brushing past Kiran, giving him an electrifying sensation. However, he quickly steadied his mind, calming himself down. As he calmed down, he suddenly felt a clear emptiness in his mind, as if nothing was before him. The words "form is emptiness, emptiness is form" floated in his mind. Lady Meiji let out a bell-like laugh, stood up slowly, and said to Kiran, "You surprised me. I didn't expect you to stay so calm in the face of temptation." "Is this your mental strength training?" Kiran asked, looking at Lady Meiji. "This is just the most basic level of training, dealing with human desires. If one can't control their desires, how can they have strong mental strength?" Lady Meiji explained, pacing slowly on the ground. "I used to control Axel Yanes with mental strength but suffered great losses because he could resist my temptations," she continued, looking thoughtfully at the mountain outside. Kiran said nothing but felt he had gained new insight. This is like different levels of understanding. If one is controlled by desires, one's mental strength can never achieve a qualitative breakthrough. "Thank you for the guidance," Kiran said to Lady Meiji. "No need to thank me. You should know I still want the power of the dragon vein and the pagoda of nations to revive myself," Lady Meiji admitted openly. Kiran didn't respond but accepted her honesty. "In fact, our struggle is a battle neither of us wants to lose," Lady Meiji said to herself. Kiran remained silent, just looking at Lady Meiji. "Initially, I was eager to get the power within you, but now I've changed my mind," Lady Meiji said, her expression softening, filled with charm and allure. Kiran was slightly puzzled, looking back at Lady Meiji. "Even if I gain the dragon vein and pagoda of nations' power and revive, I'd still be alone. Uncertain if I'd succeed in cultivating the immortal silkworm goo like Macy Wendell, facing endless cycles," Lady Meiji explained. Kiran remained silent, watching her. "Given the unknowns and equal chances of success and failure, I've decided to give up," she added. Kiran was shocked, finding it hard to believe she would give up. He looked at her, seemingly in disbelief. Lady Meiji continued, "Now, I want to train my mental strength with you. Once it's strong enough, I can live through you if you live." "So your greed has grown," Kiran remarked. "That's one way to see it, but if we succeed, I'll become your accessory and you'll be my host," Lady Meiji explained. Kiran finally understood why she didn't want her life essence back from Yvonne Quinn. It seems you're placing a big bet on this. I can't afford to fail again. I must go forward with determination, as it might be our only chance for success, Lady Meiji said. Then let's start training so I can return to Dragon's Land soon, Kiran suggested. You'll need to stay here for a few more months. After that, I'll leave Saintess Mountain with you and become part of you, Lady Meiji said. Her words didn't ease Kiran. Instead, they added an inexplicable pressure. He felt that Lady Meiji's endless desires pushed him to constantly overcome them, or he'd be trapped. Seeing through his thoughts, Lady Meiji smiled and said, "Don't worry, I won't harm you. I need you to help me become stronger, and you're the best." Kiran fell silent, not wanting to discuss further with her. Lady Meiji smiled, pulled Kiran to sit down, and said, "Let's start training." Kiran mechanically sat on the tatami, and Lady Meiji unexpectedly threw herself into his arms. Chapter 1084. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, over 2 months had passed. During this period, Kiran York had been training his mental strength with Lady Meiji. However, he had never had any physical intimacy with her. Despite her constant attempts to seduce him in various ways, Kiran always resisted. He understood that this was a test of his willpower, a part of his mental training. Over these 2 months, Kiran could feel his mental strength growing. He could even communicate with Snow Xander and the other women using just his mental strength, making it feel more natural than a phone call. This communication also helped him assist them in their training, speeding up their progress. However, Kiran felt frustrated by the increased tacit understanding between him and Lady Meiji. He could sense her thoughts and vice versa. Often her thoughts were deliberately seductive, making it hard for Kiran to resist and causing him discomfort. One evening under the full moon, Lady Meiji looked at Kiran and said, "If I survive tonight, we can continue our cultivation together for a long time, and I may become even stronger. However, if I don't make it, I don't know what will happen to you." Kiran was stunned by her words and asked, "What do you mean by tat?" Lady Meiji smiled faintly and replied, "I defy the natural order, so the heavens want to eliminate me." Kiran nodded, showing he understood. Lady Meiji continued, "In the past I hid my presence within others or cultivated alone here, so the heavens tolerated my existence. But now, being with you changes things." Kiran was slightly taken aback. Just then he noticed the bright moon in the sky seemed to vanish, and dark clouds began to gather. A thought flashed in his mind: Heavenly Tribulation. I am about to face the Heavenly Tribulation. If I can withstand it, I might survive this great calamity. If not, my soul will be obliterated. I don't know what impact that will have on you, Lady Meiji said calmly. Kiran felt a deep sense of frustration. He realized that Lady Meiji had used him ruthlessly this time. She needed him to risk his life to protect her. If I can endure this tribulation, I will emerge as a new person, leaving behind all the filth and past. Then we can start anew. Lady Miles' tone was filled with anticipation, as if encouraging Kiran to help her. You are overthinking. There's nothing between us, Kiran replied solemnly. Lady Meiji did not argue. She simply watched the clouds gather in the sky, filled with countless bolts of lightning. I don't know how terrifying this tribulation will be, but I hope everything will be okay, she said, her voice tinged with worry and nervousness. Kiran felt even more uneasy. He knew how serious the impending danger was. The clouds grew denser, and the lightning seemed to converge like numerous streams about to form a torrential river. As the lightning gathered, the sky brightened, and a bolt of lightning, like a white ribbon, struck down towards Saintess Mountain. As the lightning descended, it twisted and turned, dancing in the sky like a beautiful woman, filling the air with coldness and killing intent. Lady Meiji remained calm, her gaze fixed on Kiran, filled with confidence in him. Kiran felt an inexplicable urge to protect her. The lightning drew closer, heading straight for Lady Meiji's head. Instinctively, Kiran raised his hands and struck at the lightning. A loud bang echoed in the air, and the lightning in Kiran's force disappeared. Kiran was slightly surprised at how easily he had deflected the lightning. However, Lady Meiji's expression grew more worried and uneasy. It seemed Kiran's action had stirred up a hornet's nest. As he wondered, the lightning in the sky gathered again, this time faster and more powerful than before, aiming at both of them. Kiran quickly realized that while he had deflected the lightning, he had also angered the heavens. The tribulation was now directed at both Lady Meiji and himself. Lady Meiji remained calm, relying on Kiran to protect her. Kiran had no choice but to raise his hands again, striking at the lightning. Another loud explosion echoed, and the lightning dissipated. However, Kiran felt an increasing sense of unease. The lightning seemed too easy to deflect. Take it slowly. This is a 9 heavens tribulation, with 9 strikes in total. We've only faced 2 so far, Lady Meiji explained. Kiran felt a wave of fear wash over him. Soon the third bolt of lightning struck. This time it felt as if the entire sky was pressing down on them, and the peak of Saintess Mountain was shrouded like a blanket. Breathing became difficult, and Kiran felt his strength waning. Bang! Mustering all his energy, Kiran struck at the lightning again. A deep rumble echoed, and the clash of their forces shook the earth. The cries of dying animals and birds filled the air. Lady Meiji's face paled further, but she remained calm. Once again, the lightning dissipated. However, the sky grew darker, and Kiran felt even more pressure. Lady Meiji's face was now ashen. This tribulation was a life-or-death trial for her. Chapter 1085. There is a saying, the first 3 waves of the Heavenly Tribulation struck successively. Although the power increased with each wave, it had not yet reached a catastrophic level. Everything remained controllable, but this only heightened the fear. At this moment, the lightning in the sky seemed less dense, appearing more like a few dragons wandering in the air, constantly shifting. They seemed to intersect and encourage each other, making the sky more oppressive and suffocating for Kiran York and Lady Meiji below. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning descended from the sky, faster and sharper, like an unsheathed sword aiming to obliterate Kiran and Lady Meiji. This bolt triggered a chain reaction, causing the other lightning bolts to rush toward them from all directions, forming a cage in the air. This cage seemed to trap Kiran and Lady Meiji, stripping them of all freedom. As they stared at the descending electric net, their hearts were filled with fear. If the situation becomes extremely dangerous, you should abandon me and save yourself, Lady Meiji said in a solemn, low voice, looking at Kiran. Kiran was stunned, not expecting Lady Meiji to disregard her own life at a critical moment. Cultivating with you for these past 2 months has been the happiest time of my life. Thank you. Lady Meiji's tone was sincere, expressing heartfelt gratitude. Enough with the nonsense, you old witch. Kiran felt the gravity of the situation and couldn't help but scold her. Lady Meiji wasn't angry. Instead, she smiled brightly, her smile radiating hope and happiness. To her, Kiran's scolding was a sign of his willingness to help her. I'm serious. If it comes to a life-and-death moment, you should abandon me, Lady Meiji reminded Kiran again, fearing his stubbornness. Ignoring her, Kiran swung his palms, striking the descending lightning. Lady Meiji's eyes were filled with fear and unspoken worry. Boom! Kiran's palm clashed with the lightning, creating a deafening sound. The lightning remained unmoved, not deviating or shattering, continuing its path toward their heads like a sharp sword. Kiran's head buzzed, swelling with the realization of the danger. If struck, they would either be obliterated or killed. Desperately, he lunged towards a bolt of lightning on the left, using his body to intercept it. Don't be foolish. Lady Meiji shouted anxiously, seeing Kiran's reckless move. It was too late. Kiran's body collided with the lightning, producing a thunderous crash. Luckily, the lightning deflected, allowing them to escape. Boom! The vertical lightning struck the ground where they had just stood, creating a deep crater. The surrounding plants were either reduced to ashes or charred, leaving a desolate scene. They narrowly escaped the 4th tribulation, feeling both fortunate and aware of the immense danger. I didn't expect this tribulation to be so cunning, using both real and fake attacks, Kiran remarked. Lady Meiji nodded, also surprised that the seemingly weakest bolt was the most powerful. Thankfully, Kiran acted quickly, realizing the threat and making a decisive move. You were brave, but if the nearby bolt had been just as strong, you could have died. Lady Meiji chided, though relieved. It's your fault for dragging me into this danger, Kiran retorted, blaming her. Can you stop calling me an old witch? Just call me Meiji, Lady Meiji playfully pouted. Kiran shook his body, pretending to be grossed out by her affection. Unbothered, Lady Meiji looked up at the sky, now clear of lightning. If there are 9 tribulations, we still have 5 more. It's terrifying to think about, Kiran said seriously. I suspect it's the 9 heavens tribulation making this a life-and-death ordeal, Lady Meiji said, deciding that if things became too dangerous, she would sacrifice herself to save Kiran. Kiran remained silent, watching the sky. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning broke through the clouds, rushing towards them. This bolt was different, swirling like a tornado, aiming to engulf them both. If the 4th tribulation was a cage, this bolt was a demon trying to swallow them whole. This one looks terrifying. Be careful, Lady Meiji warned, gathering her strength to protect Kiran. As Kiran prepared to strike, he felt his body being lifted by the tornado like lightning, overwhelmed by electric waves. He felt as if his body was about to shatter. Inside her, Lady Meiji wanted to help but felt herself weakening, her spirit already fragile. Seeing Lady Meiji struggling, Kiran drew on his dragon vein power, his body turning red. The red and white lightning clashed, creating a cacophony of cracking sounds. The dragon vein power and the lightning both began to dissipate. The sound of breaking filled the air, and both forces vanished. Kiran and Lady Meiji fell to the ground, feeling as if they had just escaped death. Before they could catch their breath, the sixth tribulation struck like a giant sword descending upon them. Chapter 10, 86. This is outrageous. Are they trying to force us to die? Lady Meiji looked at the sixth wave of the Heavenly Tribulation sweeping toward them, filled with anger and helplessness. She began to gather her strength to resist, but suddenly realized her soul had become so weak it was almost disappearing. She was about to become utterly powerless. Kiran York was also weak, having exhausted much of his dragon vein power. Like a sharp sword, the lightning moved swiftly, slicing through the mountain and causing the trees to fall in swaths. Kiran and Lady Meiji felt the icy, murderous intent of the lightning, like the cold of the Antarctic. "Damned old witch!" Kiran cursed, seeing Lady Meiji's soul almost vanish. He leaped forward, embracing her. Lady Meiji tried to push him away, but the sound of an explosion filled the air, and Kiran's body was flung like a broken kite, spitting blood as he flew. The lightning sword vanished, but Kiran continued to cough up blood. "Kiran, are you okay?" Lady Meiji wanted to reach out to him, but found her strength depleted. Kiran's body hit the ground hard, blood spurting from his mouth. Lady Meiji ran to him, shaking him desperately. "Kiran, wake up! Wake up!" Kiran felt as though his entire body had shattered, devoid of strength. Knowing this was the sixth tribulation filled him with despair and fear, yet he opened his eyes, feigning a relaxed expression. "You old witch aren't dead yet, so I won't die either." Lady Meiji didn't get angry. Instead, she hugged Kiran, crying. She didn't expect Kiran to protect her so selflessly at a critical moment. She felt guilty and regretful, thinking her defiance had brought this upon them. At that moment, another lightning bolt descended. This time, the lightning seemed confident they couldn't escape and struck straight down, exuding an aura of destruction. The overwhelming power filled them with despair and helplessness. Lady Meiji, unable to protect Kiran or escape, lay on top of him, looking into his handsome face. "If there's a next life, I'll be your woman to repay you for your sacrifice." Kiran was surprised by her words but pretended indifference. "I'm not interested in an old witch like you." Lady Meiji didn't mind his harsh words. Her face was filled with genuine happiness. As the lightning neared, Kiran, feeling a sense of responsibility, flipped over to shield Lady Meiji with his body. The lightning struck his back, but a protective white aura from the Pagoda of Nations formed around him, emanating from the power within him. The scene where he fought Kanpei Ichiro in the Pagoda of Nations Square appeared in his mind. Even though Kiran did not have the chance to attack, he was still protected. With a loud boom, the lightning vanished, and the protective power from the pagoda also dissipated, allowing them to escape the seventh tribulation narrowly. Both lay on the ground, utterly exhausted. They knew the remaining tribulations would be even stronger. Indeed, the sky turned white, resembling the electric net from the first tribulation, but fiercer and more arrogant. Staring at the gathering electric net, both felt like giving up. "Do you think any of your many women are pregnant with your child?" Lady Meiji asked, suddenly gossiping. Kiran realized she had given up, accepting death. "You old witch, you'll never understand true love, so you'll never know." Lady Meiji smiled instead of getting angry. "You're wrong. I'm experiencing love right now." Alove, Kiran scoffed. "Do you think I protect you because I like you?" "Isn't that so?" Lady Meiji asked, smiling. Kiran coldly denied it, but he knew she was partly right. Their mental training had created a bond between them, a form of love and understanding. "Meeting you and having you sacrifice yourself for me makes me very happy," Lady Meiji said, kissing Kiran's forehead. He couldn't dodge due to his weakness, and at that moment, the next bolt of lightning descended, filled with killing intent. Kiran's eyes glowed with a hint of hope. Perhaps. Chapter 1087. Kiran York leaned in and kissed Lady Meiji on the lips. She was taken aback, not expecting him to kiss her. Even though her body was just a shadowy apparition, in that moment of the kiss, they both felt the reality of each other. Lady Miles' body was cold, but Kiran's mouth was warm. Their 2 months together had created a deep understanding and a tacit connection between them. As they kissed, a fusion of ice and fire, cold and warmth, emerged from their bodies. This fusion began small but grew stronger, especially around Lady Meiji, as a force seemed to gather from Saintess Mountain. What started slowly soon intensified like a storm. The 8th Heavenly Tribulation struck as they kissed, aiming to annihilate them. However, an infinite life force and energy from Saintess Mountain surged to meet the lightning. Bang, bang, bang! A series of explosive sounds filled the air as the tribulation shattered, and the mountain shook as if hit by a powerful earthquake. Yet Kiran and Lady Meiji remained safe, engrossed in their kiss and oblivious to the threat. They had successfully weathered the 8th tribulation. Lady Meiji pulled away from Kiran, looking at him with joy. "I didn't expect Saintess Mountain to be so filled with love," she said, surprised that their kiss had summoned the mountain's power to fend off the tribulation. Kiran was equally astonished, thinking about how Lady Meiji's deep hatred had transformed into love, proving the mountain's inherent love. Reflecting on this, he felt a sense of miraculous fortune. While they rejoiced, the sky filled with lightning again, crackling angrily and booming continuously. This time, the lightning felt like an enraged dragon, its roar thunderous and overwhelming. Kiran and Lady Meiji looked up, clinging to the last hope that surviving this tribulation would mean safety. "Kiran, after this, I've finally let go of my hatred. If there's a next life, I want to stay with you," Lady Meiji said, her tone filled with deep affection. Kiran, thinking of their kiss, felt equally moved. "You should focus on becoming human first," he teased, hiding his true emotions. Lady Meiji smiled happily. "If I become human, the first thing I'll do is let you sleep with me," she said. Kiran turned away, not wanting to contemplate a love story between a human and a ghost. The next bolt of lightning had fully formed, a luminous dragon with destructive intent striking towards them. Like a glowing dragon waving its dragon claws, it opened its bloody mouth to attack the two. Both Kiran and Lady Meiji were exhausted, having used up all their powers. They lay there, awaiting death. The lightning carried the wrath of the 9 heavens, filled with a destructive aura. As it neared, Kiran shielded Lady Meiji with his body, hoping to protect her with his death. Lady Meiji felt deeply touched and happy, realizing true love meant mutual sacrifice and protection. She had given up everything for her lover and lived with hatred for more than 1,000 years. However, she did not know that there was true love until this moment. Kiran, sensing a surge of strength, thought about his many women and his desire to live. This resolve generated a power within him, alternating between cold and heat, merging together. The lightning enveloped them, but instead of obliterating them, it surrounded them. Lady Meiji tried to push Kiran away but couldn't. Instead, Kiran absorbed her spirit into himself, her ghostly form disappearing. Alone, Kiran resisted the lightning, feeling a strange familiarity in its power, akin to the dragon vein. Elated, he began to absorb the dragon vein's power interwoven with the lightning. The power started as tiny fragments, but soon flowed into him like a stream, growing stronger. This force healed his wounds and reforged his bones, making him more powerful. Eventually, this power condensed into a golden sphere within him, absorbing the surrounding lightning. When all the lightning was consumed, the golden sphere shone brightly like the sun, making Kiran appear like a deity suspended in the air. Lady Meiji had vanished, seemingly destroyed. Kiran frantically searched for her. Chapter 1088. After Kiran York landed, the entire Saintess Mountain returned to normal, and the sky once again became radiant. Kiran gently activated his internal power and immediately felt an overwhelming sense of joy and excitement. He realized that his strength had achieved a qualitative leap. Previously, he had to actively harness his power to attack, but now it seemed as though every pore and hair on his body exuded an innate attacking force. He knew that at this moment the power of the tribulation, the dragon vein, and the power of the pagoda of nations had finally fused together. Filled with ecstatic joy, Kiran began to search for Lady Meiji. Reflecting on the bond they had shared during the ordeal, the mutual understanding, and the unwavering loyalty, his heart surged with excitement. However, after searching for a long time, he could not find Lady Meiji. Kiran grew anxious. Could she have been killed during the tribulation? The thought of Lady Meiji being utterly destroyed, her soul dispersed, filled him with an inexplicable tension and complexity. "Meiji!" Kiran called out loudly in desperation, but there was no response. His anxiety increased, and he began to release his power to search for any trace of her. Unfortunately, he could not sense her presence anywhere, as if she had truly vanished. A wave of sorrow washed over Kiran. Although he had once hated Lady Meiji, considering her a wicked old witch, the reality of her disappearance stirred a sense of loss in him. Through their 2 months of mental cultivation, he had unknowingly come to regard her as a friend. Remembering how she had wanted to protect him in the face of death, his heart swelled with emotion. Desperate, Kiran scoured Saintess Mountain. Despite searching everywhere, there was no sign of Lady Meiji. It was as if she had vanished without a trace, leaving no hint of her presence behind. Suppressing his grief, Kiran accepted that Lady Meiji was truly gone and reluctantly left Saintess Mountain. As he was about to depart, he turned back and murmured, "Lady Meiji, I will find you." These words felt like a promise akin to a solemn oath. At that moment he felt his heart skip a beat, almost sensing Lady Meiji's smile and voice from the mountain. However, these feelings were fleeting, disappearing before he could grasp them. Struggling to control his emotions, Kiran descended the mountain, intending to return to Dragon's Land. As he reached the foot of the mountain, he noticed 3 tents. Puzzled by their presence, he quickly recognized the familiar auras of Yvonne Quinn, Jenny Leo, and Aoki Kostner. Could it be that the 3 women hadn't left? Excited and confused, Kiran approached the tents. He reached the first tent and hesitated before unzipping it. Inside, Yvonne lay peacefully, a smile on her face. Overcome with emotion, Kiran called out, "Yvonne!" Yvonne slowly opened her eyes upon hearing his voice. Seeing Kiran, her eyes lit up with joy, and she leaped up, embracing him tightly. Feeling each other's presence, they couldn't help but express their happiness, with Yvonne crying from the overwhelming emotions and longing. Yvonne's cries awakened Jenny and Aoki, who emerged from their tents. Jenny ran to Kiran, hugging him tightly like a child reunited with her parents. Kiran embraced all 3 women, feeling as though they had been through a lifetime apart. Remembering the life and death tribulation he had just faced, he held them even tighter, his eyes filled with complex emotions and excitement. After a long embrace, Yvonne was the first to stop crying and looked at Kiran. "Can you leave now?" she asked. Kiran nodded, glancing around and noticing the undisturbed surroundings, starkly contrasting the chaos above. "Do you know what happened on Saintess Mountain just now?" he asked. The women looked puzzled and shook their heads. "A few hours ago, Lady Meiji came to us and then we fell unconscious," Aoki explained. Realizing that the women had stayed behind for him, Kiran understood that Lady Meiji had anticipated the dangers of the tribulation and had made them unconscious to keep them safe. He felt a deeper concern for Lady Meiji, silently praying for her reincarnation. Despite considering her a wicked old witch, he hoped for a good outcome after their shared ordeal. "Is Lady Meiji dead?" Jenny asked, expressing her disdain for Lady Meiji. Aoki and Yvonne looked at Kiran with questioning eyes. During the tribulation, Kiran recounted the events on the mountaintop to the 3 women. They were shocked, having had no awareness of the perilous events above. Jenny was pleased. "Good. No one can interfere with us anymore," she said excitedly. Kiran didn't blame her, understanding her resentment. Aoki, however, looked somber. "Should we build a memorial for Lady Meiji?" she suggested. "Why build a memorial? It's good that she's dead." Jenny continued to fume. Yvonne remained silent, waiting for Kiran's decision. "Let's not. I don't think Lady Meiji is necessarily dead," Kiran said, an inexplicable feeling of her survival lingering in his heart. Jenny pouted in displeasure, but Yvonne held her back. "Let's pack up and return to Dragon's Land," she said. Kiran nodded, and they prepared to leave for the airport. Meanwhile, Konta Yasuda was also heading to the airport, planning his own trip to Dragon's Land. See Chapter 1089. Konta Yasuda arrived with dozens of bodyguards, exuding confidence and pride. His aura was filled with arrogance. In his mind, Kiran York had vanished without a trace in Sunland, and had not been heard from for some time. Yasuda believed Kiran was dead. Yasuda had dealt with Park Sung-nam and his associates, forcing Park to barely escape Sunland. Now, full of confidence, Yasuda headed to Dragon's Land, intending to confront the Ludwig family and demand compensation for the losses suffered by Power Hub Investment Group. To ensure success, Yasuda had coordinated with Ailes and the others to join forces. As a result, everyone was headed to Dragon's Land to meet up. When Kiran and his group arrived at the airport, Yasuda's flight had just left. Thus, the 2 parties missed each other. Kiran and his companions successfully completed their procedures and booked a flight from Sunland to Dragon City. They arrived 3 hours later than Yasuda. Setting foot in Dragon's Land once again, Kiran, Yvonne Quinn, and Jenny Leo felt a rush of emotions, feeling like they were home. Aoki Cosner, now considering herself a part of Dragon's Land and Kiran's life, was filled with happiness at the thought of being with him. The four left the airport and took a taxi back to the villa. Having been away in St. Tess Mountain recently, their phones were dead, leaving them unable to contact Snow Xander and the others. Kiran had previously communicated with the other women through mental strength, but now, back in Dragon's Land, he decided not to contact Snow Xander or Lillian Yanes, hoping to surprise them. Upon reaching the villa, they found it empty. Jenny stretched and exclaimed, "Finally home." Yvonne's face was full of smiles, while Aoki was slightly reserved. "Let's tidy up, then go out for a celebratory meal," Kiran suggested, smiling at the three women. "Want us to join you for a bath?" Jenny asked, her eyes gleaming with mischief. Kiran blushed and quickly looked down. Yvonne, though silent, seemed equally excited. Feeling overwhelmed, Kiran glared at Jenny. "Not interested. Did Lady Meiji bewitch you, or did she drain you dry?" Jenny teased, her pretty face showing a hint of annoyance. Kiran's face turned beet red as he headed to his and Snow Xander's room, eliciting laughter from Jenny and Yvonne. Kiran knew that life with these women would never be dull. He entered the room, noting how everything was neatly arranged, including Snow's cosmetics on the table. Relieved that she was still in Dragon City, he began to relax. After a quick tidy-up, he headed to the bathroom for a shower. Each bedroom in the villa had a bathroom, so everyone was occupied with their activities. As Kiran soaked in the bathtub, pondering his next steps, the bathroom door suddenly opened, and Jenny slipped in. Startled, Kiran tried to cover himself. "We've seen each other naked plenty of times. What's there to be shy about?" Jenny teased. Feeling frustrated, Kiran watched as Jenny quickly jumped into the tub with him, not caring about his protests. She nestled into his arms like a playful lamb. Having abstained for over 2 months, Kiran found himself unable to resist her seduction, resulting in a passionate encounter. The dragon vein power within Jenny seemed particularly drawn to Kiran's energy, enhancing her strength and making her skin smoother and more radiant. Afterward, Kiran realized that his power had once again merged with Jenny's, strengthening her. He wondered if he could use the same method to help the other women cultivate, envisioning a carefree life together. While Kiran contemplated this, the villa door suddenly burst open, and heavy footsteps echoed through the house. "Lindsay Ludwig, you can't escape. Today, your family will pay for what you owe," Conta Yasuda's lewd voice rang out in the villa. Kiran's brow furrowed with anger. Jenny, awakened from her post-coital meditation, also showed signs of fury. "You stay here and continue your training." "I'll handle this," Kiran said, dressing quickly. Jenny remained in the bathtub, absorbing the power Kiran had transferred to her. In the living room, Lindsay's angry shout echoed, "You beast, if you have the guts, kill me now. I will never submit to you." Conta Yasuda laughed wickedly. "What good will your defiance do? I'll just take you by force and see what you can do about it." His men joined in the laughter, their eyes filled with malicious delight. Lindsay, filled with anger and humiliation, retorted, "I'd rather die than submit to you." Conta Yasuda's eyes gleamed perversely. "You might not know what we can do, but we do." Lindsay's face turned pale as she realized the twisted intentions behind Yasuda's words. Her body trembled uncontrollably. "It's better to live and fight back," Kiran said, stepping out of the bathroom, his voice calm and composed. Chapter 1090. Kiran. Just when Lindsay Ludwig had lost all hope, she saw Kiran York appear like a beacon of hope in her despair. Tears of joy streamed down her face. Kiran looked at Lindsay. Her black gauze dress was torn, her hair disheveled, and her beautiful face was covered in tears, her eyes filled with anger and humiliation. Whether from the excitement of seeing him or from the shame and fear of the threats she had just endured, her soft, beautiful body trembled uncontrollably, like a willow swaying in a storm. Seeing Lindsay in such a state, a surge of inexplicable sorrow and pity rose in Kiran's heart, and his anger surged like a tidal wave. "Wah!" Lindsay couldn't hold back her emotions any longer and cried out in anguish, throwing herself into Kiran's arms. Feeling her body tremble violently, Kiran sensed the immense pressure, longing, and fear she had endured. His heart ached, and he gently patted her shoulder, softly saying, "It's all right now. I'm here." His calm words were like an endless source of strength for Lindsay, filling her with boundless energy. She nodded vigorously, her eyes shining with excitement and joy. On the other hand, Conta Yasuda and his men, who had been so arrogant moments before, were now visibly tense and uneasy. They had never expected Kiran to appear suddenly. They had assumed he was dead after he disappeared 2 months ago after going to St. Tess Mountain. Their confidence had led them to seek revenge on the Ludwig family. Seeing Kiran alive and well now, they were terrified and angry, knowing that he had heard their humiliation of Lindsay. It was clear Kiran was seething with rage and intent on killing them. Seeing the terror in their eyes, Lindsay, raising her tear-streaked, mature, and beautiful face, pleaded angrily, "Kiran, kill them for me!" Her expression pained Kiran. He knew she had suffered great humiliation. Nodding slightly, he released Lindsay and walked towards Konta Yasuda and his men. "Kiran, do you intend to kill? Killing is illegal. Yasuda stammered, but his words were cut off as Kiran grabbed his throat and lifted him off the ground with one hand. Yasuda's legs dangled, kicking frantically, trying to break free from Kiran's grip. It was futile. He couldn't escape. Kiran looked at Yasuda's bodyguards and commanded, "Get out!" Terrified, the bodyguards fled, not knowing what Kiran intended. Struggling to breathe, Yasuda stared at Kiran in fear, unsure of his fate. Ignoring Yasuda's pale face, Kiran dragged him outside. As the bodyguards ran for the door, Kiran shouted coldly, "Anyone who moves dies!" The bodyguards froze, turning to face Kiran. With a crisp snap, Yasuda's neck was broken, his head hanging limply, blood trickling from his mouth. The look of disbelief froze on his face, and he died. The bodyguards, unable to withstand the pressure, collapsed to their knees in front of Kiran. His cold, sharp gaze swept over them. "Partners in crime." The simple phrase struck fear into their hearts as they realized they were doomed. They tried to flee but were struck down as though by an invisible force, their bodies collapsing. Kiran killed them all without mercy. The sight of their lewd behavior and abuse of Lindsay had filled him with uncontainable fury. After everything he had been through, Kiran had become cold-hearted. His enemies had to die. Having witnessed Kiran's swift and decisive action, Lindsay felt a mix of fear and happiness. She watched as Kiran sprinkled some powder from his pocket over the bodies, making them disappear as if they had never existed. Thrilled, Lindsay grabbed Kiran's hand, urgently saying, "We need to save my parents. They've been captured by Ailes's men and taken away." Hearing Ailes's name, Kiran's eyes flared with anger, remembering how Ailes had escaped before. He pulled Lindsay into his arms and hurried outside. His speed was astonishing, making it seem as if he were flying. Lindsay clung to Kiran, feeling safe and warm in his embrace. The thought of how much she had missed him filled her with joy, and she nestled closer to him. Kiran, without wasting words, swiftly reached the Ludwig family's villa. However, the place was empty, and signs of a struggle were evident everywhere. "Mom, Dad!" Lindsay cried out desperately, her tears flowing freely. There was no response, only silence. Kiran's anger burned hotter. He sensed the evil dragon vein power in the air and thought of Horace Moore, who had escaped. Back then, because he was in a hurry at Jade Dragon Mountain, he did not kill Horace. After that, he did not bother to search for him. He realized Horace and Ailes were still conspiring together. At that moment, Lindsay's phone rang. It was Ailes calling.